My presentation is Transplantation of Organs from Living Human Donors. This is Farhad Jahangiri. Welcome to my presentation. Transplantation. Organ removed from person with surgery and placing into another person. Transplantation occurs because organ has been damaged or doesn't work. What is living donation? Living donation takes place when a living person donates an organ or part of the organ for transplantation to another person. The living donor can be a family member such as a parent, child, brother, or sister. Living related donation. Living donation can also come from someone who is emotionally related to the recipient, such as a good friend and a spouse. Thanks to improved medication, a genetic link between the donor and recipient is no longer required to ensure a successful transplant. In some cases, living donation may even be from a stranger, which is called anonymous or non-direct donation. My research is Practical Decision Making in Healthcare Ethics, Chapter 15. We have some statistics based on organ procurement and transplantation network data as of April 2020. In 2020 transplant waiting list, we can see 83% for kidney, 11% for liver, and 3% heart, 1% lung, and 2% for another transplant. But in 2019, transplant performed is for kidney, we have a 23,401, liver 8,805, heart 3,552, lung 2,714, pancreas 143, intestine 81, and for heart and lung, we have a 45 people they have do the transplant performed in 2019. There are some ethical questions about donation from living donors. How can we justify the harm done to the donor? Removal of an organ from a living donor is the only operation that is done specifically to help another person. In fact, living organ donors are chosen because they are healthy. So living organ donation would seem to violate one of the tenets of medical. Primer non nocere, first do not harm. How we can ensure that donor's consent is truly voluntary? Major ethical concern about the organ donation by living related donor focus on possibility of undue influence and emotional pressure and coercion. Purchase of organ from living person. We don't know, this is the ethical or no? The somebody's need the money. When they need the money and just for money they give the organ, we don't know. This is completely ethical or no? There are something to avoid organ donation. The something looks like religion. They avoid the organ donation. In the some religion looks like the Jehovah Witness, they use just their blood. And they have some role for organ donation. There are some another looks like some group in the Russia, in the Gypsy, and some Native American. In the some countries, organ donation is illegal. The reason is due to inhibition of organ trading. That sometimes they happen pandemic, they decrease the organ donation, or they stop the organ donation because the disease. There are some things that can reduce the number of donors. In the United States in 2020, due to COVID-19 pandemic, we had 5,725 living donor transplants, indicating that we had a 22.6% reduction in organ donation compared to 2019, which was 7,397. Almost 120,000 people in the United States are currently on the waiting list for a life-saving organ transplantation. But suddenly, every day in the United States, 18 people a day die waiting for an organ to become available. What are the ethical issues of organ transplantation? The transplant team must inform the donor all of the risk. What's the risk? The immediate surgery-related risks of organ donation include pain, infection, hernia, bleeding, blood clots, wound complications, and in rare case, we have a death. Long-term follow-up information and living organ donor in limited and study are going. Okay, right now, the recipient must be also accept the donor is placing himself a great risk. No challenge in medicine is as important as organ transplantation, and much work has been done in this regard. The most important of which is the use of a stem cell to produce the organ needed in the future. It is a way to prevent organ transplantation from one person to another one. And in such a case, the probability of the acceptance of the organ by the person is very high. Considering that the sample is genetically similar to the person and also medical ethic is observed in it and no other person is harmed. The cons of the become an organ donor. There are some medical possible short-term and long-term cons. Living donors can encounter health complications. Organ rejection could happen for recipient. Allergic reaction to anesthesia, heavy bleeding, pain, infection, pneumonia, blood clotted. Less than 2% of donors need to back to hospital. 3 in 10,000 donors die in surgery. And people can get certain health problems after donating. Pros of becoming an organ donor. It is possible for one organ donor to save lives. It offers people a second chance at life. It allows for the potential of medical research advances. General health is a good as a general population. If you ever need to transplant, you will have a shorter wait on the UNOS transplant waiting list. Feeling a sense of happiness, reward, satisfaction, and relief because most transplant patients have much better health after the transplant. Higher self esteem that you have before donation. In most cases, living donor report a better relationship with the transplant patient. In my personal analysis of this study, as a people to go to war to save the others, as in the earliest day of Corona, all jobs were shut down, disappeared, great fear. But healthcare continued to save the lives of others, and they didn't care about their self. Okay, they put themselves and their family at the risk. They can make their own decision, but what about their family? I like to use the sacrifice instead of ethic. Organ donation is a sample of sacrifice. Now it is up to you to decide, are transplants ethical or not? There are my some references here. Thank you for watching my presentation.